we are going to and presenting our recommendations to the Prime Minister of Pakistan based on our understanding as to what is happening in power industry, and so that we come up with some positivity and make our difference to set the things right. So here we are celebrating the Energy Week. The idea is to have the collective wisdom, and we have divided into 5 days. Today being the CPAC day, for which we have invited His Excellency Yaoyan and Asim Salim Bajwa Sahab. They are the champions of CPAC now, and we are going to definitely hear from them their views and how we are going to take things forward. And next day is generation. After that, we are celebrating the Innovation Day. Then comes the Transmission and Distribution Days. So, before I move on to our next speaker, I would like to personally thank all our worthy guests, Honorable Minister Sahab, the Ambassador Sahab, and our practitioners, as I call them, and to all the worthy audience who have found time and who are gracing the occasions. So with this, I would request Umar Ayub Saab to allow us to officially commence the Energy Week with your permission, sir. And now, since time is short, myself and Umar Saab, we have to rush for this presentation to the Prime Minister. And before that, Minister Saab also has to attend a session on Senate. So I would like to invite Mr. Yaojin to share his ideas on CPAC with us. But I would like to ensure that you give us a rousing welcome, which he had probably not gotten ever before. So give him a stand.
Chairman Wafd, Ambassador of Germany, members of the NEPRA, my colleagues, distinguished guests. Yeah, I'm very honored that on this NEPRA Energy Week, the first inaugural part of the function is given to the CPAC, or in a broader sense, to China-PAC cooperation in the energy sector. And also I'm honored to be present to give my views on the cooperation, especially on the energy sector between China and Pakistan. I think that I would like to make a few points. I think that with the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Imran Khan, and in particular Minister Ayub Khan, that the energy sector of Pakistan is undergoing a kind of transformation, which is focused on providing or supplying this affordable, reliable energy for the economic development of Pakistan. The CPAC, because the energy sector is a major part of the CPAC cooperation, the investment, the input from the Chinese companies, they are also focused. So first, I think the investment under the CPAC frame is a kind of vote of confidence for the overall development of Pakistan's economy. Energy is the driving force of the whole economy, and we are witnessing that the reform and the structural reform by the government of Pakistan, which gave us a kind of further confidence that an overall structural reform is taking place in Pakistan. China, as a development partner, that CPAC also covers other areas like infrastructure and joint ventures and FDI. But energy sector's reform will have the fundamental effect for the investment, for the development of the manufacturing sector, for the promotion of your export capability. Second, I think that the government of Pakistan, in particular the Ministry of Energy and some other regulation agencies like NEPRA, right now your direction is very firm and your efforts is tremendous that in this regard. We can feel that the government of Pakistan pays a lot of attention for the more scientific and also efficient mobilization of the energy in this sector. And this determination is very important because, as the Prime Minister Imran said, reform also needs sometimes painstaking decisions and structural reforms. This is a responsibility for the overall development of your economy. But this sometimes it is also painstaking that to take your economy to develop in a faster and much better directions. So here, I assure you that the Chinese government and also the Chinese investors would like to cooperate with the Pakistani government to have an overall better energy sector's reform. The Chinese Ministry of Reform and Development, NDRC, has already worked with the Ministry of Energy for energy sector's develop a plan, and due advice, suggestions, and proposals have been given that for a better supply and the demand of the energy sector. And in the next stage of the CPEC, that the Chinese side will focus on renewable energy and hydro power energy to improve the structure of the energy sector. And thirdly, I would like to comment that the NEPRA's effort, I think NEPRA as the major regulators, you are operating under independent mandate. But I think, as I said, energy sector or power sector is an integral part of your overall economy. So as just now the chairman mentioned that you are taking into consideration all the stakeholders and the investors' interest. So I would have to say that under the leadership of the chairman, Mr. Faruqi, that we have witnessed a more vibrant and also more determined direction from the NEPRA that to encourage that the reform and the restructuring of the power sector of Pakistan. I would like to say a few more words regarding that our cooperation with Pakistan beyond or out of the energy sectors. The CPEC is the major foundation or the framework between China and Pakistan. And although right now China is in a difficult period of fighting against this coronavirus, but right now indications have shown that the situation is getting better now in China. I would like to assure that all the international partners, in particular like Pakistan, that China is determined in moving forward with the CPEC or the Belt and Road initiatives. This kind of projects under the CPEC won't be affected by these temporary difficulties or the challenges of these epidemics. And all the Chinese companies and also the government agencies will do our best to keep this CPEC project moving forward. For the next stage, we are focused on the cooperation in joint ventures, industry cooperation, in agricultural cooperation, in science and technology cooperation, as well as the social cooperation. Right now, also, I have to thank that the Ministry of Planning and Development, as well as the CPEC Authority, due to your great efforts. Right now, our new package of the projects or cooperation have been finalized. Right now, that the two governments or that the private sectors of the two countries have been in a full fledged of working with their counterparts in Pakistan. And I believe that a new stage of the CPEC will giving a new momentum for the future development of Pakistan's economy. Thank you.
Mr. Yao Jing, His Excellency Ambassador of China, His Excellency Mr. Bernard, Ambassador of Germany, Lieutenant General Asim Salim Bajwa Sahib, Chairman CPEC Authority, Lieutenant General Muzammal Hussain Sahib, Chairman WAPTA, Honorable members of NEPRA Authority, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the print and electronic media, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. And of course, World Bank representative here, Mr. Lango. Good morning to you as well, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure and I must congratulate and commend Chairman NEPRA Tawseef Farooqi Sahab to arrange this exhaustive session, 5-day session on Energy Week in Pakistan. It's the need of the hour. The energy sector, ladies and gentlemen, it is of such importance for our government that the Prime Minister has spent a lot of time, thought processes have gone into it, and there are reasons for it. The importance of this sector affects each and every citizen of Pakistan. The future of the country, the economic progress of the country is dependent upon the sustainable and affordable and reliable availability of energy for the consumers of Pakistan, whether they are domestic, whether they are commercial, or whether they are industrial, or whether they are agricultural. Across the board, a consumer does not care where the energy is coming from. It's a binary decision. Just in the world of computers, you have a binary decision, a 0-1. You switch, you press the button and the electricity is either available or it is not. And this is something we are working towards in the sense that when our government was elected into power, we had brownouts, issues of voltage, availability of energy. These are things that we are working on. And where is our focus? In addition to making energy available, ladies and gentlemen, the issue of affordable energy also comes in. The power purchase agreements that had been signed in the past have to be looked at. The IPP agreements that had been signed off in the past have to be looked at. Because I have a very well-read audience over here, I'll just give you a very brief example. If there is a 20-year project and the companies are given your interest payments and depreciation in the first 10 years, that's called a front loading of the agreement. And when you give that to a business entity for the next 10 years, they are home scot-free. But who pays for that higher capacity payments? It is the consumer, ladies and gentlemen, because all those payments are clubbed together. And what happens then? There is pressure on the social side. Our industry starts crying out and says that we are becoming uncompetitive, and rightly so. Then the issue comes of what sort of an energy mix do we have in the country? Today, almost 75% of the energy that we are consuming, all these electronic devices, the energy that is being consumed today, we are dependent on imported energy in one form, shape or the other. And where does the pressure go of that? Ladies and gentlemen, the pressure goes straight onto the current account. We are basically exporting hard-earned dollars are going out of the country to import these fuel sources. Where does that put pressure on? It puts a pressure on the rupee. It reduces competitiveness. Why? Because you are increasing your import bill of the country. And where it matters, importing high-tech machines, high-tech value-added products, all of a sudden they start becoming more expensive. So these are some of the issues that our government is is dealing with. And we are presenting to the Prime Minister. We've already had a series of meetings and presentations to the Prime Minister. We've been meeting our colleagues of the World Bank as well as the IMF and other people. And these are the issues we are confronted with. Number one, looking at the power purchase agreements. Number two, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at the energy mix. That's why we've got the renewable energy policy through. We want to take it home. The provinces are on board. The government of Sindh has to sign up on it. KP is almost done. And why? Because we are looking at increasing renewable energy, which today, the unit cost of renewable energy has come down to 4.6 cents to a unit. And it's decreasing. The rates are decreasing over a period of time. And NEPRA is doing a good job in the tariffs that are coming down. They are on a scale down factor. So our aim is to increase our renewable energy mix, take it to about 20% of the energy mix by 2025 and 30% by the year 2030. When you factor in hydro resources, Chairman Bapta is here, General Muzamil Saab, when you factor in the energy sources from hydro resources, so that's another 30%. So clean and green energy availability, what we are targeting for Pakistan by the year 2030 will be inshallah 60%. Then you put in Tharcoal, another 10%. Nuclear energy, another 10%. So we are aiming at 75-80% of the energy to be produced in Pakistan from indigenous resources. And then you can do the mathematics in your mind, ladies and gentlemen, that how much of pressure will be released from our current account deficit. We are going to shrink that deficit even further. So this is the track we are going on. And with renewable energy, it's not just generating the renewable energy. Companies are looking at the Pakistani market. If we are going from about 3,000 megawatts to 20,000 megawatts over the next 10 years, then the economies of scale come in. Then they are looking at relocating their manufacturing processes of producing their wind turbines, of producing their solar panels in Pakistan. So new high-tech technology coming in, the outsourcing of that technology, the bill of material that is going to be produced here, the vendor industry that is going to be produced here, creation of jobs, creation of economical energy. Another important factor, ladies and gentlemen, is that all this is not being done as a shot in the dark. For the first time, we've sat down and we've done a complete demand analysis. A scientific demand analysis as to where energy is required, when it is required, what type of energy is required, on which grid is it required. So all these things come together. And why is it important that we have to inject more and more technology at the stage of managing the energy flows? I'll just give you a very brief example. I had a team from the United States in my office about 2 days ago, and I gave them an example. I said, you take a modern fighter aircraft, an F-16, F-15 or F-18 aircraft, and you take the onboard computer systems out of those aircraft. Excellence, the aircraft is going to crash. You take a JF-17 aircraft and you try flying it without the onboard computers on board, the aircraft is going to crash. Why? Because these new aircraft are designed to be unstable for the maneuverability factor. It is the computers on board which make it possible, making more than 300 corrections a second. Similarly, what's the analogy with the energy sector? The energy sector, ladies and gentlemen, those of you with a technical background, when you inject renewable energy into the system, you've got a lot of variation. Your grid infrastructure, your power planning, all these things. Before this, it was on a stable course. You had your large turbines running. You had a stable energy resource coming in. All of a sudden, with renewable energies, you have spikes, you have valleys. You've got to plan power more carefully. And the German ambassador is here, Mr. Bernhard, Your Excellency. I was with a German company and we were discussing this, and they were giving an example because Germany has a large renewable energy resource. On a soccer or football game, when people are sitting and there's a break, everyone rushes to the fridge to open the fridge. And what happens to the energy demand? It just spikes. They were not used to this before. With turbine or with older forms of energy, this sort of energy planning wasn't there now. So the input or injection of artificial intelligence into the management and planning of energy, that is another facet which is coming in. Ladies and gentlemen, as technology shifts, we have to be absolutely up to date of what is happening. The renewable energy planning or the equipment that is here today, trust me, 3 years down the road, the world would have shifted again. That is the only constant today in the world of technology. The technology we have today, it's already going out. New technology is coming in. So in this world, you have to be faster, better, cheaper. It's a tough world to live in. And another important factor that we are doing in Pakistan as we go forward is that we are going to open up the markets. The energy sector as we have it today, you're going to have with the new electricity policy that's going to come in. Today we have a single buyer market. It's going to be a multi-seller, multi-buyer market. And what you will have is companies that are going to be doing wheeling. You'll be able to produce energy in one side, get your customers and sell it to those customers where it is economical for them to buy. So it's going to be survival of the fittest. So when you have all these things coming in together, you have a market size of over $100 billion. You've got a generation market size of about $40 billion. You've got a transmission market size of $20 billion. You've got a distribution market size of $15 to $20 billion. Pakistan is a large market for all the industry of the world to come and invest in. We want investment to come in. The barriers of entries are being slashed. It's an open market. You can have your own production facilities, invest. The rates of return are there. The population size is there. From the distribution side, all the way up and down the value chain. The companies, ladies and gentlemen, last 2 words and then I'll beg leave because we have to go. The companies that are looking at investing in Pakistan in their manufacturing facilities, it's not just to cater to the domestic market. It's using Pakistan as a launch pad for the Central Asian republics as well as for Africa. Why? Because the technology base is available in Pakistan. Another important factor you have to keep in mind is that Pakistan's GDP per capita, if you look at Pakistan's GDP, it's $300 billion. That's the official. You factor in the unofficial GDP, that's almost the size of the official economy. For a developing country, an undocumented size of the economy can be anywhere between 50% to 100% of the economy. For a country like OECD countries, for Germany, the United States, this is approximately 18 to 20% of the economy. Excellency is informal economy. It's the mom and pop shops, the cab drivers, where you pay, where cash transactions take place. So if you look at a 300 billion economy, a documented, and you put in another same size of the economy, that's a $600 billion economy. And then for a reference point, an oil-rich country like Saudi Arabia, the size of its GDP is $850 billion. All of a sudden, things start making sense. A country like Japan, they have got companies in Japan which have got algorithms that track the size of the economy, formal, informal, and the minute it touches $3,000 per capita, they come and make investments in that country. That is happening in Pakistan. That is what we have. And what does that mean for the country? It means that the demand of energy that we have to constantly factor in the informal size of the economy because they are plugged in as well. And you just go outside Islamabad, the developments which are taking place, our urbanization, our demand for white consumer goods, all these factors, they demand energy. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm very glad NEPRA is having this Energy Week. And as the technical experts, they come and give their talks and their thoughts, they share them with the audience over here. We're looking forward to some very good synthesis coming out of this because nobody has an exclusive on wisdom. Wisdom comes from anywhere and everywhere. So I think together when these views come forward, a good document will be crafted And we have to keep in mind that the resilience of the Pakistani nation is tremendous. We are technically oriented. We've got a very strong engineering base, a very strong engineering base. We are a nuclear power. We've got expertise in the aerospace industry. We've got expertise in the engineering sector. There are very few countries of the world which have this sort of a mix. We've got the entrepreneurial spirit, the innovation spirit. So putting all these things together, the sky's the limit. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Pakistan Zindabad.
Mr. Umar Ayub is requested to please remain on the stage to His Excellency Mr. Zhao Jing, Ambassador, People's Republic of China. His Excellency Mr. Bernhard, Ambassador of Germany. Lieutenant General Asim Salim Bajwa, Chairman, CPEC Authority. Lieutenant General Muzammil Hussain, Chairman, WABDA. Mr. Bahadur Shah, Vice Chairman, NAPRA. Mr. Rahmatullah, Member, NAPRA.
Initiator of this event today, His Excellency Mr. Bernard, German Ambassador, His Excellency Yao Jing, the Ambassador of China, Lieutenant General Muzammal, Chairman WABDA, members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and I also see some of my friends from media sitting at the end. Assalamu alaikum. It is my profound privilege to be here today. And I have really been impressed highly by the way NEPRA has come a long way to become an effective regulator. And only seeing is believing. I've only heard about NEPRA working on tariffs, and sometimes you hear some cries coming from corners of NEPRA being tough, but it's only after seeing the depth of their knowledge and their effective engagement with all the partners that you come to believe their role and its necessity. So, I think it's a great opportunity provided to all of us to come and sit under one roof and talk about our energy requirement. This was also due because there have been rumors in the market as if we've already gone past our demand and probably there is no future for energy projects in Pakistan anymore. They've already done some work on this. The ministry has done work on this. And we are now very clear. And I'm sure further end of this week, after this activity, we will be very clear that all the projects that have been planned were thought through and were essential and were needed. So thank you for this. Let me also thank His Excellency, the Ambassador of China, for the conception of CPEC between the two countries, our truly strategic iron brotherhood is being translated into economic relationship and is integrating the two economies. And as we progress further, we are coming to believe more and more of its utility, and the scope will also expand. Since this is a very informed audience, I will not take you into data and what all has been achieved because you all already know it. I will just reiterate a few things of my observations that I have in the last 2 months. Number one, CPEC is a reality, and this will go all the way because this has come to fill some of the voids in our infrastructure. And we can already see the fruits of phase 1 completion, both in terms of communication infrastructure. I think this is the first time that after now we go into launching Sakhar Hyderabad motorway, that we will have a motorway through and through from Peshawar till Karachi. And the travel time would have been compressed within a day. So it is almost compression by 50%. So this is a great relief for the people of Pakistan. But let me also tell you that there is a great work going on the western route as well. Once we have the Hakla DA Khan road completed, so we are going into next phase into DA Khan Zob, and Zob Quetta has already begun, and we will also have work begun now between Khuzdar and Avaran Hushar. So we will have proper work being started on all leftover sections of the western route as well. In energy, most of the projects in phase 1 are completing. And what I heard from the minister, the CPEC projects are a great contributor in sustainable, affordable, and reliable energy for Pakistan. So what we are doing now, number one, all CPEC projects planned will happen, and it will be our best endeavor that all of them complete in time. Because both the partners, China and Pakistan, are highly resilient nations, and we've just seen one demonstration of this coronavirus not affecting the pace of progress of CPEC. So all projects will happen in time, and we will go further on reducing the cost of this electricity by, one, there are hydel projects, and I will leave that to Chairman Wabda. He will cover them. But there are 2 projects under CPEC, hydel projects. Most of the issues are now resolved already, and I think they will happen soon again, and the work will begin. but in Thar, we are now going beyond producing power, and we are not talking of gasification, we are talking of coal to liquid, and we are talking of transporting coal out of Thar for blending with other coal power projects so that we can bring the cost down. So, I will conclude by saying that having completed phase one mostly, we are now gearing up for phase two, and there are some big projects, mega projects that are coming up, and we will have the momentum required for them to be completed in time. I am very happy to see all ministries are working in synergy with CPEC authority, and I must say that I see most of the reps of the company who are working in CPEC, both Chinese and Pakistani, and soon we will have companies from other countries also joining us in special economic zone. Phase two, which is mass industrialization and intervention in agriculture and socio-economics and science and technology, and then oil and gas, and now maritime affairs also, we see the scope enhancing, and we also see the momentum generating and bringing real relief to the people of Pakistan by enhancing our exports, by enhancing our food security, and by giving mass employment to the people of Pakistan. So, it is only with this integration with all ministries, and NEPRA is a very big stakeholder, that we will move forward, and inshallah, by the middle of this year, you will start seeing things moving on ground. So thank you very much for inviting me here, and thank you for being here for this wonderful day.
Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Worthy, respectable Chairman NEFRA, Excellency Mr. Bernard, Ambassador Germany, Excellency Ambassador China, General Asim Salim Bajwa, Vice Chairman NEFRA, Bahadur Shah Sahab. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and Assalamu alaikum. Truly a privilege to be here this morning. And I think the credit goes to nobody but NEPRA itself, because they've set it up, this much-needed gathering, intellectual gathering, which was so very well required. And my appreciations to Chairman NEPRA. And he gives me a fresh air of a concept once I hear he's talking this morning as the Chairman NEPRA. So thank you for getting us over here. And my appreciation also to the staff, very efficient staff who managed to fix this up. I'll take slightly little more, 10 minutes more than what General Bajwa took. And I'll try to relate things as I put on the head of a chairman of WAPDA, and an issue to be a major stakeholder in the national security of Pakistan. You know, what we do in Pakistan is very important, but we live in a very closely interconnected world today. And, you know, with this fundamentally very competitive world, with the sharper resource constraints all over, all the big powers are the endeavors to have more powers and have a control of the pattern of the production and consumption both. So you can't live a life of your own what you want to do in Pakistan. You have to be mindful what's happening elsewhere. And with this sharpened resource constraint all over, all these conflicts, they have a greater sense of the reasons to be more complicated in nature. And everything what we do in here, it is a very direct bearing on the national security. And Pakistan, of course, is no exception to this one. What I'll show you is that although the conflicts in this century are focusing on the issues like investment, like the trade, and then of course technological innovations. But there are greater overtones in the world to be focusing on the hydropolitics. And this hydropolitics becomes more important for a country like Pakistan because what we produce through water is not even the 10% but the potential what we have in Pakistan. We need energy. It's a very great security element. But we don't need energy. We need a cheap energy. If you have a lot of energy, which is not cheaper, perhaps it won't take you anywhere. So what we look at it is that in Pakistan, our fundamental core issue of national security is impacted by two basic components. It's the economy and it's the food security. And we in WAPDA are the stakeholders for both. How does that happen, Zlo? Anywhere in the world, there are four key components which are supposed to be managed. And those are the food, water, energy, and populations. And you'll be surprised to hear that I take care of three of them. It's energy, the water, food. The population controls lies with somebody else. Now, what we feel in Pakistan, the water sector has a very close overlapping of what happens elsewhere in politics, in the social culture domain of Pakistan, in the economic sector and energy. You talk of politics, we've been having a different structure of politics since 1947. There have been times the water and the development of the hydropower has been the focus. There have been times we lost the focus. We lost the course. Now I'll talk about politics. For going for a hydropower or the water storage projects, you need to have land. I'm just giving one examples. This has been the easiest in my experience of about 4 years to get a land in the tribal society of Pakistan because the land belongs to the tribes. And we managed to get a land for a project of Mohammed in just about 2 weeks' time. And we stuck in certain projects for about 2 decades. So political system inherently is a very basic factor. How do we develop your water sector and how do you develop your power sectors? Now, where do we stand in the context of water? It's some of the lowest in the world, actually. We are amongst the 15 most water-scarce countries in the world, with the 4th highest use of water rate, and with the lowest storage in the world in terms of percentage. We get about 145 million acre-feet water a year, and what we store is only about 13 million acre-feet. Of the remaining, we spend 90 million acre-feet on agriculture and irrigations, and 50% of that goes waste because we do not have the line canal, we have percolation, we have evaporations, we have theft, and we have no data and we have no analysis. And minimum production value per liter is the best in the Holland. They work on the concept of a drop a crop. We have flood irrigations. And even the biggest elite which sits here, and I'm part of this, each one of us use a fresh water in a commode every day in the morning. We only treat 2% of the sewage water, but we have. 98% is not retreated. And the worst of all is that our management and conservation strategies are absolutely inadequate. And add to it what goes down in terms of 5th generation war. So this is the kind of environment you work. So where do you go on to this one? I'll just very briefly explain to you in the context of water. It looks very busy slide, it's very simple. On the left you have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, going all the way to 10,000. Way back in 1951, we had the luxury of having 5,650 cubic meter water available per person because we had only 35 million populations. With this very sharp rise in population, going all the way from 30 millions to about 207 millions in 2018, this red sharp rise has been able to bring this per capita availability down to 908. That's a water scarce country. If you come down from 3,000, that's a water shortage. Come down to 2,000, it's water scarcity. We go down from hereward, that we have absolute water insecurity. What was needed to be done is interventions. These interventions you see in the green color. In terms of projects, what we have, Tarbela and Mangla, through these, we managed to have a capacity to carry water for 104 million acre-feet water, which has come down to 98 because of siltation dams. So this triangle, ladies and gentlemen, between this red and this orange, this triangle, this has to be reduced. How do we reduce this? We're supposed to raise this up, and this is very closely tied up with this green. So we do more water sector projects to store water. This will go up, and the government needs to do something very serious to make sure this rise doesn't go beyond a level of control. It's very simple in saying so, but very hard to do this. Now, this we're doing in the backdrop of the potential that we have in Pakistan in this cascade alone. If you enter the point at Shiok, that's where the line of control is there, you have a potential site identified in 1984 of Monanpo studies, which talks of about 640 million acre water and 640 megawatt power. Then you have Skardu, then Tungus, Yalbu, Bunji, Bhasha, Dasu, Patan, Thakor, Tarvela, Khori, Kalaba, go down all the way to Tonsa. What we have done so far is only 3 of them. It's Tarvela, Janai and Chashma. And we are now doing the Amir Bhasha and Dasu. That's after about 70 years. So look at the drop. The drop, what is available in this country is of more than 7,840 feet, starting from Shiok all the way to Tonsa. And this is the best waterhead available to anywhere in the world. We haven't done well on that. And this is where we stand. Now, before we go on the figures, disregard those, be sure we are one of the worst countries in the world to have very accurate data. You have the presentation of the 5 ministries here, all have a different data. This should be something closer. Something closer with some differences of regulators or the ministries or elsewhere. We have about hydel of 9,406, which is 26%. And we need to cut on the red pie of thermal. Add to it also the coal of 13%, that's about 65%. Now, well, let me take you slightly back to the history. Between 58 and 77, we did 33 projects. They were hydel parks, 7 of them, thermal parks, grid stations, drainages, barrages, canals, and dams. Now, surprisingly for most of you, these 33 projects were done within cost and within time. Each one of them. The reasons? It's a structure what was there in place in those days, because WAPDA was raised on the model of Tennessee Valley Authority in US, and also an organization in Canada, Cubic Waters. Now, these 33 projects went through and changed the destiny of Pakistan. What do we do thereafter? 70s, 80s, 90s, and we go over to IPPs. We woke up to the reality we do not have water and we do not have power. And then we go to these IPPs, and now we talk of, I'm not too sure the ministry would know, Ministry of Power, it is 1.7 trillions of a circular debt, or 1.9 or 1.5. I read in the papers all different figures. It's something more than 1.5 trillion, I can safely conclude. And then comes 2007, we do a drastic decisions of unbundling of WAPDA. This takes you further down the drain. You have NTDC working on a different ministry, and you have all the discourse. They're done by a ministry, by a joint secretary. My appreciation, doing a good job. There's no structure. There's no harmonized planning. We're doing Dasu, we're doing Mohammed, we're doing Bhasha, but we yet to have decided where do we want to take the power and how. It's 500, it's 230, it's 765. So that's a kind of a disconnect what we go through right today. I skip this what we have, but we did the reappraisal way back in 2016. That what is plaguing us? We do not have money, we didn't have enough expertise, and it takes 26 months to approve a project, and you have a safety networks against corruption and transparency like Auditor General, like NAB, you have scrutiny of this. So this takes you to the lowest sinking level in any of the levels you ever think of. But my appreciation to my team, we sat down together, we had a relook at the whole things, overall. What do we do? Our first conclusion was we must complete the project which has been delayed for decades. And we took upon ourselves a responsibility of fixing those projects within 24 months. And my team did that. By doing those projects, what did we gain? This is the Asta Jajagam. This is what we did in the last 2 years. We have water in Balochistan, we do not have irrigation system there. The government can't fix up the command areas. We did that about 37% ourselves. This was delayed till 2002, we finished in 2018, and this gives us 50 billion rupees of revenue every year. And this producing more than desired. It produces about 1,040 in flood seasons. And this is what we did in Chitral, and did the transmission ourselves, crossing over the Luari tops of more than 10,000 feet, highest ever in Pakistan. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, what does it help us to go from here? We have Kutch, that's our revenue, but we have more than 200 revenue with the ministries elsewhere. I'm sure Lodi Sahib is hearing this. So, from 2016, where we had total energy of 6,916, we move up to 9,406, and that adds about 165 billion to revenue of Pakistan every year. Now, this is what the World Bank thinks about it, because we had the privilege of having David Malpass visiting us. So, Tribela 4 is the project which has been done after a very long time, within cost and within times. And my thanks to the World Bank for their support. And now where do we go from here? That's more important. So, we about more than 207 million today. And Allah willing, inshallah, will be 312 billion in a couple of years from now. And that will increase our demands in all three, the water, food, and energy. And will require additional water for 60 million acre feet, and of course for urban uses for 10 million acre feet. So with this in our background, so we decided that we have a plan, the way forward is by 2025, we must save about 5 million acre feet water and add about 4,600 megawatt, for which we are on track. And we must add in medium terms, by 2030s, add more 8 million acre feet water and 16,000 megawatt. We are on track on this. And then, of course, the long term, I wouldn't be talking on this today. But we believe in the concept of walk or talk. We have plans, all the issues, impediments notwithstanding, My team has been able to carve out, design a way forward for this country, and which takes up, we're focusing on three major projects, that is Mohammed, that is Dasu, and that is the Amir Basha. These three. And just to give you a figure on this one, the Mohammed would take you about $3 billion, and Daisu is about $8 billion, and the Amir Basha is about $15 billion. That's the financial spread of these projects. And what we get from the government of Pakistan is about $3 billion in 8 years. So what's the kind of a work we've been able to do in last about some times? We had the groundbreaking of Mohammed in just about 6 months before. And you'll be very glad to see that we have a Chinese company working in Mohammed. And I'll just show you how does it look like on ground.
पानी स्टोर करेगा ये मल्टी पर्पज डैम है और वहाँ पर जो नेबर भी पानी स्टोर करेगा वो करेगा मैं शुरू में चढ़ूंगा उसका गवर्नमेंट पास स्टोर पे और नेशनल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन होगा इन सब की एक इज्तिमाई कोशिश जैसे आज करना पड़े और आप लोग देखकर खुशी होगी कि स्पीड के साथ और वर्कर जो दूसरे के साथ काम हो सकते मैं समझता हूँ इसको अगर आगे लेके जाएँ तो कोई वजह नहीं है कि हम पाकिस्तान को मुश्किल नहीं निकाल सकते
So this start, Allah willing, by 2024, this will be complete. And we have another major project coming up, Dasu, which was stuck for the land acquisition. That has been resolved. And moving with the speed on this, and the stage one of 2,000 megawatt of Dasu will be operational by 2024 December. And how does Dasu look like? You'll be pleased to see that. The biggest support has been the local, in both Mohammed and Dasu. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be glad to hear that after having stuck for about 13 years on Jamir Basha, Allah willing, we'll be able to start the work on month of April. So starting in April 2020, we look at it, Mohammed in place by 2024. Dasus guys can come over to see this project. But before I finish, I'll just make two recommendations for the Excellency Ambassador to China and of course General Asim Salim Bajwa to seriously consider the regional break for the Gilgit-Baltistan, because that is very important. With all the Indus Cascade projects starting from Dasu and of course going up to Basha, and we go further to Bunji and Shauk and Skardu, will definitely be a need to have a development of a GB's grid. And then also look at it closely, the possibility of a tunnel at Babusar. But that will be a great support to Pakistan. Have 500 dumpers moving at Dasu and the same number in Basha. And there is a strategic congestions on the single entry what we have to Gilgit-Baltistan. In case we have about 7 to 13 kilometers tunnel, so that will reduce the total construction time for these projects and also be a great help to take more benefit from the CPAC, which is actually a paradigm shift and the game changer in the history of Pakistan. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. I wish we had some time for question answers, but once again, thank you for NEPRA for setting this up, and thank you, Excellency, for being here.